All right, guys, there was a game that was played tonight. It was between the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz, and the Phoenix Suns won. That's a lot. I guess that's probably the end of the video. No, let's talk about it a little bit at least. This is the Hoops Nerd postgame show. All right, that was a tough game for Jazz fans, mostly because you're playing without Mike Conley, you're playing without Donovan Mitchell. You have multiple players on the Jazz who are just not like playing well lately. Just really struggling. I know the Jazz came off of a nice win against the Sacramento Kings, but that team is on the verge of firing their coach and just tanking for a pick for the rest of the season. So I don't know what else you can take from that Kings game. As far as the Suns, let's talk about the Suns a little bit. The Suns are really, really good. And the Suns might very well be the best team in the NBA. Who knows? They definitely now have the best record because they have the tiebreaker with Utah Jazz. The Phoenix Suns are number one. They beat the Jazz and they got, and I think Jazz fans kind of expected to lose this game with the injuries, but you've got to give credit to the Phoenix Suns who played really well and have earned this spot. And they are a tough team. One of the things, we can talk about the offense, but the thing that really impresses me with the Phoenix Suns is the defense. They are a ferocious defense. And when they're playing a team like the Jazz were tonight that just did not have a guy that can penetrate into the rim, they just punished the Jazz. Mikal Bridges to me is just so incredibly good. That trade they made for him was an absolute steal I believe it was with the Sixers. That was unbelievable that they got that. Tonight he was fantastic. 7 for 8 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3. He looked every bit just absolutely comfortable against the Jazz with 3 steals. That's the thing that makes him so incredible, and 2 blocks. His defense is stifling. I mean, he is so incredibly long. His wingspan is out of this world. And he is a smart defender, and he closes lanes, and he can also just envelop guys. Like, he can play one-on-one or get steals and fill lanes. He's fantastic. And then you combine that with 4 for 5, like that level of three-point shooting. 18 points tonight. He was a plus 14, and he was just incredible. And then what else is there to say? Devin Booker was fantastic tonight. I mean, he just Royce O'Neal had no answer for Devin Booker. Devin Booker did whatever he wanted, and basically it was that little dribble to the corner of the block and pull up, and he makes that every time. That's a layup for Devin Booker. He did, and the Jazz did nothing to stop it. And so if Devin Booker's like, well, if you're not going to stop me, I'm just going to do it and I'm going to score. And he did 13 for 19 from the field. It would be, if you go watch those plays, I wonder how many of those were that little pull up mid range, at the corner. I mean, that's his shot now. And he was also 2 for 5 from 3. So give him credit. 3 for 3 from the free throw line, but he didn't need to go to the line because he just buried it. And the Jazz just gave him his space and he just took the shot he wanted. 31 points for Devin Booker, a plus 20 for the game. He was really good. Chris Paul is incredible. He's fantastic. Chris Paul, there's just not a lot you can say other than that guy is amazing. Let's see. Chris Paul was 5 for 9 from the field, 9 assists. He's just incredible. 12 points for the guy. He just sets everyone up. He sets a tone. His leadership, you have to talk about it. His leadership is a big deal, and he just makes every team he's a part of incredible. Last year, he's on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who was expected to have literally like the worst record in the NBA, and they're a playoff team, and they dang near beat the Houston Rockets. This year, he goes to the Phoenix Suns, who were close to kind of, they had that crazy streak at the end of the regular season last year in the bubble. They almost make the playoffs after winning like 7 or 8 in a row in the bubble, and they almost made it, and then they just fall short. Sorry, I'm tired. It's late. If this was regular, I'd edit that out. But anyways, Chris Paul joins a team that's middle of the pack, kind of not quite good enough to make the playoffs. If the Phoenix Suns of last year were in the Eastern Conference, they'd have definitely been in the playoffs. They add Chris Paul, and they have the number 1 record in the NBA. I mean, they aren't that much different either. I mean, they drafted a backup center who I don't think even plays now. That was a bad pick. But you know what? They've got Ayton, who looks better with Chris Paul. Chris Paul is, uh, influenced Booker in ways. Booker to me looks about the same, but to the same Devin Booker is a all-star, so that's all you need. And then you've got Mikal Bridges, who looks like he's just taken another leap this year, and they're a really good team. Really good. That Torrey Craig pickup for the Suns was really nice. He was there. A lot of other teams probably could have gone after him. Utah could have gone after him, but they didn't. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I guess they're happy with Royce O'Neal's defense, but Royce O'Neal, again, tonight, played against a guard, Devin Booker, and he goes 13 for 19. So I don't know. Uh, I don't know. And I like Royce O'Neal. You guys know I like Royce O'Neal, but I think that Torrey Craig might have been worth picking up. Although knowing that Quinn doesn't like to really mess with his rotations and just kind of is good with what he's got, I don't think anything would have changed. Let's talk about the Utah Jazz. So, like we mentioned, the Jazz are playing without Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. Really, there was only one real bright spot in this game. Bogdanovic looked solid again tonight, and that was at basically the main option. He was 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 6 from three. Although to start the game, I think he was like 2 for 3. So you'll take that, I guess. But it's nice to see Bojan Bogdanovic look comfortable. He's shooting threes. Tonight he took 6, so I'm happy with that. He only played 27 minutes, and he scored 22 points with 4 rebounds and 3 turnovers and no assists. So it was an okay night. Bojan Bogdanovic, his role, and this is always kind of what I've talked about with Bojan Bogdanovic, is he's like, his role within the offense should be one of the last parts of the play. Bojan Bogdanovic is not the greatest playmaker. He's okay. I like Bojan Bogdanovic playmaking to create his own shot. Mostly, I like to see Bojan Bogdanovic as a post player because we know that his post moves are solid. Bojan Bogdanovic is a good post player. His handle's not great, so there's a little bit of give and take because he does turn over the ball. Like tonight, he had 3 turnovers. But he is nice in the post, so you're kind of looking at a give or take with Bojan. 6 for 11 from the field, and a lot of that's from him kind of creating his shot. What makes Bojan Bogdanovic so lethal on offense is when that 3-point shot is falling, because then you've got the nice post play, you've got the 3-point shooting that spreads the floor, and then occasionally he's got open lanes to the rim, and he can score and drive, and he's scoring and driving better, So it's nice to see. I would like to see more consistency with the 3-point shot. That's what I personally would like to see. We'll see if that ever happens. I don't know. We will see. I'm seeing people mention Jordan Clarkson, but that's the other thing. And I guess I have some thoughts on Jordan Clarkson. Let's talk about Jordan Clarkson because there's not a lot else to talk about tonight. Joe Ingles had a rough night, but he's taking on the load of main playmaker against the Phoenix Suns, who have the number 1 record in the league. Guys, I keep yawning. I'm so tired. But anyways, Jordan Clarkson is the 6th man of the year. He is. I know we've mentioned Joe Ingles with Jordan Clarkson, but Joe Ingles has like 22 starts now. I actually don't think that you can give Joe Ingles the award because I think he's started enough games now that I just don't think he qualifies, to be honest. But I also feel like Jordan Clarkson deserves 6th man of the year because I feel like he is a pure 6th man compared to Joe Ingles. Jordan Clarkson is just not a starter. He's not. You can start Jordan Clarkson if you want to, but he's a 6th man as his peak. That's where his potential is greatest, is as a 6th man. There's just certain players that they have to find a certain spot in the rotation where they can be at their best. I think we found this out with George Niang. George Niang is at his best at the power forward position and mostly taking spot up 3-point shots. That's where George Niang is at his best. He can do other things. George Niang can drive to the rim. He's got nice touch around the rim. He has like kind of a little floater game. He has actually really good touch. If you actually go look at George Niang's advanced stats, I think he has like the best touch on the team. Just how many times the ball goes in when he's close to the rim and takes a shot. He's actually one of the best on the team, if not the best. So George Niang can do those things. But he's at his best when he's playing kind of as the 8th or ninth man, playing off other guys, getting open spot up threes, and he makes them at a very high level. He's at like 42% right now for the Jazz. That's where Georges Niang's at his best. Jordan Clarkson is at his best when he's playing with other stars that are kind of taking the best defenders, and he can play off of them and play against either second unit players or weaker defenders, and that's where he's at his best. And he takes advantage of those guys really, really well. But when you have Jordan Clarkson either starting or being kind of your main option for a good part of the game and being defended by better defenders, he really struggles. He just does. And that's because he's a 6th man. That's why when you see him like playing in his Laker days earlier, where he was kind of being a starter / bench player, he really struggled, and he gained a reputation for not being able to kind of, not being very consistent. He goes to Cleveland and he kind of alters his game a little bit to be more threes and at the rim and his floater game. And that's like, those are the shots he takes. And he became much more efficient, and he can really score. But I think, yes, he's really efficient. Yes, he's taking the right shots. But for him to be his most peak potential, he's got to be playing within the role that he's at best at, and that's at 6 man. It's playing 25 minutes a night at most, and it's playing on the bench, and it's playing with guys like Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley and Joe Ingles on the floor, kind of setting him up. That's where he's at his best. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what makes him a 6 man. And that's why when he's in that role, he really flourishes, and he can get lots of buckets and score and hit shots. I think, who was it that mentioned Austin Grant? Man, Jordan Clarkson really needs to start knocking down shots if we want any chance of coming out of the West. I think I agree. And you've heard what I just said now. So that's kind of what I would say is like, I think he's a little better when he's having Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley on the floor, because he can play off of them. But I also agree, Austin, because he needs to hit his threes. He needs to hit those spot up threes. Tonight, Jordan Clarkson was 2 for 8 from 3. That's 25%. That's just not good enough. You need at least 3 out of 8 to be efficient right there, And a lot of those threes were not like the most difficult. Some of them were, but some of them were open like corner threes, and he just missed it, You got to make your shots. And this is something we've talked about for a long time, like this Jazz team, when they play good teams, can you hit shots? Tonight's it's not fair tonight to like rag on the Jazz in terms of shot making and things, because you're playing without your best player, Donovan Mitchell, and he's their best player now. I'm sorry. He just is. If you don't agree, that's fine. But as for me and the Hoops Nerd channel, Donovan Mitchell is the best player on the Utah Jazz. He just has gotten to that level where he is what makes the Jazz run. Rudy Gobert playing with Donovan Mitchell and with Mike Conley is a top 15 player. He is. But I've written about this at SLC Dunk. By the way, go read SLC Dunk. I wrote something that I actually thought was pretty funny tonight. That's why this was a little bit later than it normally is. But Rudy Gobert plays off of Donovan Mitchell. On the defensive end, Rudy Gobert is incredible. But can we talk about one other thing, actually? Donovan Mitchell is not the greatest defender in the league. He's just not. And I think sometimes he's a little lax on the defensive end because he's taking on such an offensive load. But I think the Jazz missed Donovan Mitchell's defense. And I don't know if it's necessarily like the defense that someone like Mikal Bridges plays, where it's like incredible length and enveloping guys and clogging lanes. I think Donovan Mitchell can clog lanes, and he does get steals. He does average like over 1 steal a game, which is nice. But Donovan Mitchell's rebounding is something that I think the Jazz miss. He's a nice rebounder for his size. He is. And I think the Jazz missed that. Mike Conley didn't play tonight, and it would have set up some nice things. I don't think the Jazz win if Mike Conley plays tonight. I think they need Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. And I think they need both of those guys to play really well for the Jazz to beat the Suns. And they didn't have them, and that's why the Jazz lost. But you know what? You're not going to lose sleep over a loss tonight. I wouldn't. Although there's a few things that are a little troubling. By the way, Rudy Gobert had some kind of interesting comments tonight, and I don't know if it's Rudy just getting frustrated at losing and not having Donovan Mitchell and all these things. But, I mean, he didn't start the second half, And Quinn came out after the game and said it was because he was in the bathroom. That's weird. That's not normal. Robert Hall, thank you, sir. 199. Hey, I'll take it. I appreciate it very much. We still got this. Playoffs Jazz gonna light up. I think they will. I think they will. I'm a little frustrated, and if you were following me on Twitter tonight, I wasn't the most pleasant. I wasn't the most pleasant tonight. I just wasn't. But hey, it is what it is. I would like to beat the Suns, and it hurts my feelings when the Jazz don't lose to or don't beat the Suns. And then guess what? Every time we play the Suns, I have about 1 million Suns fans coming at me on Twitter, and they're not very nice. They're not very nice. I'll just say that. But anyways, that was a weird thing with Rudy Gobert tonight. He was in the bathroom, and that's why he didn't start the second half. Maybe he was a little sick. I don't know. We should probably take a little grain of salt. But then there was another comment where Rudy thought the Jazz had a chance to prove some things tonight, and he felt like other players on the team weren't showing up. That's also not great. That's a little troubling. Is it like panic time? I don't think so, but that's something to kind of file away under the that's interesting Russell Westbrook gif, you know? I don't know. But that's kind of weird. That's all I don't have a lot else to say tonight, guys. It's a tough loss for the Jazz. They didn't have their best players. The Suns did, and the Suns played really well, and they smashed them. And that's what the Suns should do when the Jazz are playing without Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. Rudy Gobert is still the defensive player of the year, and they're going to run that play where Booker did a step back, and apparently that was incredible to them. But Rudy Gobert also guarded Devin Booker and blocked his shot, and you won't see that play shared very much. So that's just the world of the Jazz fans. Austin R. Grant, the West is so stacked. Imagine having either Steph, Luka, or Dame as the 8th or 7th seed. It is true. It's crazy. Ezekiel Recibe, do you reckon it's panic station time this close to the playoffs? A little bit. I think the things that you got folded arm James tonight. That's because we're just talking about stuff because the Jazz got smoked. But the thing I would be a little concerned of is that the Jazz, when they play good teams, are just not shooting well. That's one thing, and that's with a full strength Jazz team. Why? I don't know. It's weird. It's troubling. It makes me think it's not very tough up here. You know? I think Bojan's back, and so maybe that's something to be excited about. But at the same time, I want to see Bojan play with Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley for more than a couple games. You know, you need them back, and you need a little bit of chemistry going into the playoffs. I would like to see that, but I don't know when Donovan Mitchell comes back. Tomorrow, apparently, we'll get the update. So let's hope he's healed up, you know, and that the ankle is good to go. We don't want him coming back too early, but at the same time, you would like to see Donovan Mitchell back on the floor and healthy. You don't want to come back too early, though, like I said, because if you're ailing and you push it really hard, that's when serious injuries happen. So you want to be careful. Elliot Matson, is Royce an overrated defender? I don't know. I guess it depends. If Royce is playing against opposing guards like Devin Booker or Chris Paul, he really struggles. Or like the Jamal Murrays of the world, or Damian Lillard or Steph Curry. He struggles against those guys. He just does. Against quick guards, like De'Aaron Fox, he struggles. Royce O'Neal's really good when he's playing against like threes and, you know, and some fours where he's able to guard like a perimeter wing. That's when he really is solid. But what happens is you're not always playing teams that have that guy, you know. Like, for example, the Suns, you know, Mikal Bridges. I love Mikal Bridges, and we've fallen over ourselves loving on Mikal Bridges tonight. But Mikal Bridges is 3-and-D. Mikal Bridges is he had that one play in the game where he kind of pulled up at the mid-range, and so if he's developing stuff like that, watch out. But at least for right now, for the most part, you're going to see Mikal Bridges shoot spot-up threes. That's not the hardest assignment, you know? So you can hide someone like Mike Conley on Mikal Bridges here and there. And so what happens is you put your best defender, who is Royce O'Neal, by the way. Like, if Royce O'Neal's overrated, then that's pretty scary for the Jazz, because who is better defender than on the perimeter than Royce O'Neal? That tells you something. I mean, that tells you right now that Rudy Gobert is the defensive player of the year. For the Jazz to have such an efficient defense tells you that Quinn Snyder does a really good job and Rudy Gobert is out of his mind. Furby Jr., $3. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Fist bump. Furby Jr., I appreciate it. But you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just play with what you have, and Royce O'Neal is what we got. And so let's, it is what it is. I don't know what else to say. Quinn doesn't play Miaoni, so there's not a lot we can really do. But that's the thing, guys, is who's better defending the perimeter than Royce O'Neal? I would argue that Donovan Mitchell could if he wanted, but I think that he uses so much energy on the offensive end that it just doesn't really happen. And Mike Conley's a little undersized, so he's playing point guards at most. You're not putting Mike Conley on their best guy. And Bojan Bogdanovic, that he's also not a better defender than Royce O'Neal. So Bojan had a nice little night against the Kings last night, and I feel like he's not as bad right now as he might have been at certain points, but Bojan is not like someone I would describe as a good defender. I would say when he's at his best, he's an average NBA defender, which if Bojan's playing average defense, that's actually really great, because that means his offense is a plus, and that makes Bojan a plus player. When his offense is like counteracting average defense, that makes him plus, and that's great, So, but Oni is a better defender, I agree, but for some reason Quinn doesn't want to play him, and he's in the doghouse apparently. So, anyways, guys, it looks like the stream's also kind of bugging out. That's all I got to say. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, you can join the channel and join the chat right there, or you can join our different tiers. Guess what? Exciting things are coming. We are now going to give a shout out to our all-stars, because you guys are the ones that make this happen. You're the producers. You're the guys that get the job done. You win the game. You're the Donovan Mitchells who penetrate the lane and actually create opportunities for other players on the team that they don't normally get when you don't play. JT Wardell, Buckets JT, Austin R. Grant, my man, Eric C., Kelsey Hamer, The Hammer, Donald Schooley, Cody Strickland, Mitt Robach, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo, Lee Christensen, Shan Therick, Ryan Perry, the legend, Justin Ty H, Patrick Akubo, my buddy, Robert Hall, the Twitterer, and DW Jazz going all the way. Guys, you are the best. I appreciate it. Guess what? I have a few cool things I'm trying to do. Oh, by the way, join the Discord if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun. And you know what? Join my Instagram. I'm going to start using my Instagram much more to promote this channel, because I feel like this channel needs to grow, and it can grow, and that's what I want to do. I'd like to grow. I'm also, guess what? Getting a new logo soon, and it's going to be really cool, and we're going to try some new things. More Jazz videos. I still want to do the live streams. I love doing these after games, but I also want to start doing regular videos that are not live, that are just produced pieces that I make that are really fun. DWCB, Audrey does not have an Instagram. I'm barely good enough to run my own Instagram. Let alone run an Instagram for Audrey. So Audrey, sadly, does not have an Instagram. Anyways, guys, cool things are coming. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow the Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter if you'd like. But anyways, guys, I will talk to you next time.